I'm Akhil with Compass. Just wanted to introduce myself and let you know about a couple of your neighbors who just recently sold. Have you or anyone you know had any thoughts of buying or selling? This video is just going to go over everything that I've learned in the past 3.5 months since I stopped posting. It's also going to go over why I stopped posting, all the distractions I had, pretty much everything I've learned. And yeah, if you're new to the channel, my name is Akhil. I'm a real estate agent in the Los Angeles area. And yeah, this is just documenting everything I've learned and everything I'm doing. So yeah, so let's start off with content. So why did I stop posting? What happened? It was really a lack of priorities. I just had new things coming up, new shiny objects that opened themselves up to me. Leases, I got distracted with open houses, door knocking. The real thing that ended up happening is that I realized that video production, and especially really the editing process, took a lot of time. It wasn't really just filming the videos, because filming really only took a couple hours, but it was editing that took up like a majority of my time. It took at least like 4 to 5 hours to edit a big video minimum, and it could easily take an hour plus per short. So right now, regarding content, I decided to basically post videos, but cut back totally on really the editing and just like trying to make everything look really nice. I'm just gonna focus on just putting content out there that I think is really good, and just things that I've learned. So first, let's go over the thing that's taken up probably the most amount of my time and attention. And I spent basically a lot of time learning all the nuances of this. It was basically just a shiny object, something that distracted me for a while. I thought it was a really good opportunity at the time, and then after delving deeper and learning all of the negatives that come along with it, I learned better and I just shifted my ways. But the thing is leases. So first, let's define what is a lease. So a lease is basically where somebody has land or property. They essentially, lease it out to somebody for a specific period of time, and that period, that the person that they're leasing it out to, essentially pays monthly most of the time for that place. So in practical terms, if somebody wants to lease out a unit, a renter, they would go and then see the rental building or the unit, and then decide to rent it out. And that's where I come in. So essentially, what I got into was a program where this company, they own many buildings, and they needed people to show these buildings and help them, lease out all these vacant units. So I would come in, and then whenever somebody would request a showing for a building, I would come in, show the unit, and if they decided to lease, I would help and aid with the leasing process. Basically, I would be the leasing agent, and then I would get a commission for it. So let's basically go over everything, as in why this was not the best use of time, what it actually meant in terms of like inputs to outputs, like what everything took, and what I got out of it and what I learned. So first, let's just go over why I got into it in the first place. So one of my teammates, who has been doing leases for a little while, told me how great of an opportunity it was. They were basically getting free leads, and these leads would lease out places and they would get commissions, and it was very fast and easy. So that drew me in, of course, and I started doing leases and I got into it. And so basically how it worked is somebody would go online, schedule a tour, and then I would have to show up and then give them the tour, and if they liked the place, then they would apply to it, and then I would help facilitate the application and everything like that. But so basically my friend told me, in order to maximize the amount of leads that you get and the commissions that you make, the best way to do it is to take that same lead and then take them out and then help show them to other places, right? And these aren't really big leases. I think the highest lease I did was like around 6,000, so it's pretty small in LA standards. And most of them, I would say, are between like 1,500 and like 4,000. That's like the majority of leases. So they're really small. Honestly, not really worth your time. But I took them out and then I would show them to many different places. I would take them, I would schedule it with different agents. And then just, it would take up like basically a long time for each of these clients who would reach out to me. And I would go in and show them different places, and try to find what works best for them. But the thing is with lease clients is that they really don't respect the fact that you're an agent, and they'll also keep looking on their own. They'll go to a different place, and of course you only really get a commission if you facilitate their application with a rental that you've shown them. If they go see another rental that they like without you, and they put in an application, you can't get any commission for that, obviously. So you can basically see where this is going. Essentially, a lot of the times you would spend hours cumulatively showing these people around, going to different places. You show them basically like many rentals on the market, And then, a couple weeks goes by, they go schedule some other tour on their own, they rent it and apply it, and by the time you already know, they're basically already signed a lease and there's nothing you can do. And that causes a lot of problems, especially as an agent, because you're investing a lot of time into many different clients. And it's not like in home sales where the commission actually justifies, the amount of lost clients. The commission is very small already, so it doesn't cover all of your expenses for going and doing all that. So after getting into this, I was still contemplating whether this was a great idea. And there was somebody at the Skylight leasing team who's been doing this for like 7 or 8 years, and they do like almost like 14 or 15 leases every month. For reference, in my entire time doing leases, in about a 2-month period, I did about like 10. So they were doing almost like triple the volume easily per month. So I spoke with him and I got his ideas. And basically what he told me is that he specifically does 100% leases. He doesn't door knock, he doesn't do anything else except leases. And instead of taking people out and showing them, he doesn't do any of that. He just specifically shows only people the things that they request, and he just maximizes as much showings as possible. And he also schedules multiple people at the same time so he can just show as many people as possible and churn it out. And he doesn't really follow up with anybody. He's just it's really transactional for him. That's what he was doing. And I took a little bit of inspiration from that. I didn't really like some of the aspects of it, but I did some of it, and I started essentially copying it just to see if I get similar results. And I started getting similar results where I would get within a 3-week period, I got basically 5 to 6 leases. And then I realized, so I was like, okay, after that 3-week period, I was really essentially burnt out with leases because all I was doing was leases and I didn't get to door knock. I wasn't really doing many open houses. I was just focusing all on leases. So that led me to track the inputs and outputs. And this was pretty much a week-long project that I started for myself. And I really wanted, initially it started because I was like, okay, because certain buildings rent out better than other buildings. Like some buildings you could do 20 showings and nobody would rent it out. And in other buildings you could do 5 and within a couple of days, many of the people that you showed already put in an application. So I wanted to track it and see which ones do it best. And I couldn't really tell just from it was everything, all the numbers were up in there. So I decided to compile everything. This took a long time. And I went into Google Sheets and I went through every single person that had ever requested from me. Did I show them or not? And what happened? Did they put in an application? And what was the result of it? And what was there was it closed, or was it they put in an application but the application got denied? And I just went through all of it for every single building just to see essentially inputs and outputs time-wise, and inputs and outputs which building should I just never do anymore because it's a waste of time, because nobody ever wants to rent it out based on the showing to closing ratio, and which ones do I want to focus all my time into and just do it. So I did all of that and I compiled it, and at the end of it I realized there's a lot of buildings that just suck, and I just essentially deleted those. I stopped doing those types of buildings from that point forward. And there's a lot of buildings that are great, but and I also realized that even the best buildings still suck in terms of the amount of time that you have to put into these buildings to get a response is just not worth it. So, but I was still set on the idea leases. It's because he also explained to me that there's not very many things where you get warm leads, because again, when you're door knocking, it's cold leads, but there's not that many places where you can get that volume of warm leads coming to you that actually want to speak with you and get more information about the rental. And it was kind of a unique opportunity because down the line, if they do decide to buy or sell, you don't have to give any commission to anybody else. It's your lead forever after that point. So at that point, I decided, based on the inputs and outputs, I would stick only to the really specific good buildings, and I would only do those 2 days a week. And then for the rest of the 3 days a week, I would do door knocking. And then for the Saturday and Sunday, I would try to hold open houses. That way I could still get buyers and sellers, but I could still do leases on the side and still get the maximum inputs and outputs. From that, I did that for a few weeks, and I realized that there's no such thing as doing just you can't split your attention like that. Because what ended up happening is that the lease clients, started bleeding into other days. They said, "Hey, could you do me a favor and show me instead of the 2 days that I was doing it? Hey, could you show me the other days? Hey, could you help me out?" And then leases that we're about to go through, they also have requests like, "Oh, can I get the measurements because I'm moving in, I need my furniture." Just all the whole thing, it just started bleeding into other days, and I wasn't able to door knock correctly. and I wasn't able to door knock for the open houses because I was doing leases on Thursday and Friday, and normally I door knock those days for the open houses, and I wasn't able to do that. And it just became a total pain to manage, and it didn't work. So at that point, I decided, probably best to speak to somebody who was door knocking and did it for a while and had success in it. So I spoke to an agent named Mark Taylor out of Newport Beach, and he got his start door knocking, and he has done hundreds of millions of volume in real estate. And he basically outlined for me that when he was doing door knocking, and he did it for about, I think he said 3 to 5 years, what he was doing was an 8,000 door farm, and he was doing that 3 to 4 times a year. So he would do 8,000 doors in roughly 3 to 4 months, which equates out to 80 to 100 doors a day for 5 days a week. And he would do that, and he would cycle that same 8,000 farm for a year plus, and he was doing that for 2 to 3 years. And what I was doing before that was I was kind of door knocking in random places, and then I started door knocking in a specific farm area of just about 600 homes. And I started door knocking that. I ran through that farm about twice, and I didn't really get much results. That was half due to the pitch. I wasn't really skilled at it, and also, I didn't really realize how it worked. So I spoke with him, and he told me it was more of a long-term thing, and it takes at least a minimum of a 4-month turnover time between when you door knock and when you actually see any leads coming to you. And he said it takes a lot of volume and it takes consistency to pay off. It's a pretty common theme around everything. And he basically, essentially what I saw is that, if I continue to split my attention between door knocking and leases, I'll never really get enough volume on both in order to be successful. Because what I learned is for the leases, that the first person who was really great at doing leases, he did that 100% all the time, full time, and that's how he was successful. He was, obviously 14 leases is quite a lot, and that's enough that is a substantial enough commission to make sense if you wanted to do that. And on the other hand, being in door knocking fully, it requires also your full attention in order to see results, in order to see progression, in order to get improvement in all of the skills. So I decided, what was really best for me would be door knocking, because my goal is not to just permanently do leases. I personally would like to do home sales. I feel like there's more growth potential in home sales compared to just purely leases. I don't like the transaction now. The way leases work is very transactional. It's not, you don't really get to know the person very well. And I don't feel like that was the best way for me. So I decided to 100% devote all my efforts to door knocking. So real quick, just to wrap up leases, I just want to go over that I closed 10 leases, and that most of that was done in the later portion, I did leases for about 2 months. Most of that was done in the second month. And mainly, really what I learned, the best things that I learned were how to show properly, how to speak to people that are coming into a showing, because before that I had no idea at all. My first couple showings just were pretty terrible because I didn't really understand. I didn't switch on all the lights and all that stuff. I didn't come early. Some of the times I didn't, because there is, especially in leases for these specific buildings, sometimes the lockbox is in a really weird spot. Sometimes the code doesn't work, and if you don't get there early, you may have to make the client wait for 10 or 15 minutes just for you to figure out all the little details for the lockbox and everything and get the actual unit open. So, I learned a lot in terms of showing and how to speak to clients and all of that. And another thing with the leases that I've been doing, with the partnership program in Skylight, the way it works is that you don't actually get any MLS credit for any of the leases that you do. So the MLS has the multiple listing service, and in the MLS you have all of the listings that are currently on market. So any homes, any rentals currently on market. The thing is with Skylight rentals is that none of them are on the MLS. So essentially, even though I rent out however many I rent out, you don't get any of them that show up in your history as an agent because none of them were considered on-market deals. So basically, any rental that's done on the market will go onto your history, but any rental that is not done on the market will not go on your history. So even though I did the 10 rentals or the leases that I did, none of them would be on my Compass profile or my Zillow profile since they're not on the MLS. So that's another downside to doing leases. So my plan moving forward is that I'm not going to really be focusing on leases at all. It's going to be basically the lowest priority on my list. I've totally cut out any new lease leads. Right now, it's just the old lease leads that if they contact me once in a while and they request to see something, that's the only time I go out there and show anything, which is pretty much never. So right now I'm 100% focused on door knocking and just pushing myself closer to a sale. So, door knocking. What I used to do is I used to go around basically saying, hey, I have a buyer. Would you be interested in selling your home? And this was really transactional, but initially after like the first few hundred, I did get a couple leads. But from what I found, the quality of these leads, because it was very transactional, again, I didn't really make a connection with them. The quality of the lead was more like most of them were looking for such a high price that basically nobody in the world would ever pay that price for their home. So, and these people would never really be willing to list their home on the market. They're just looking for an off-market buyer to pay something that's like outrageously high. And that's basically the leads that I was getting from doing this method. And after I spoke with Mark Taylor, the really amazing door knocker, who made a business out of it, I realized that he was really focused on making a connection with these people, and having just a good rapport with them, and after seeing them multiple times, having an actual listing with them, and actually helping facilitate something that makes sense and is a reasonable ask and transaction. Basically, what I started with was like a market report. I would go around, hand them market reports, and what I learned is that from doing market reports, it's a little too irrelevant because most people are not concerned with the greater market. They're really concerned about what their home is worth or what their neighbors are selling for. So I pretty much stopped doing those, and now what I've been doing for the past, I would say almost month to 2 months, almost month and a half, is I started doing just sold in your neighborhood. So basically, I would compile I would compile a couple listings that sold really quickly in their area, and also sold at a really high price just in their direct neighborhood, and it was hopefully within the last like 30 to 60 days that's sold within, and I would put those on a sheet, and then on the sheet it would also have my information on the back. It would have like a bio and like a question, have you had any thoughts of buying or selling? I'll link it in the description. And so basically that's what I've been currently doing. And the pitch is very interesting. So I'll go over it now. So here's my current pitch. Hey, I'm Akhil with Compass. Just wanted to introduce myself and let you know about a couple of your neighbors who just recently sold. And at that point, they take the flyer, say thank you or something. And I'd say, have you or anyone you know had any thoughts of buying or selling? And I would say the majority of the time, of course, it's not interested, or just say no, not really. But I do have the metrics, and so I've knocked on 1,900 doors in the past roughly 2 months. Most of that was done in the last basically 4 weeks. And then I've spoken to, or people have opened the door on me about 853 times. And then of those 853, 8 people have given me their information. So they said, yeah, maybe, I'd be looking to either, like, some people have said they're looking to downsize. Some people are, a couple people have said, they're looking to renovate a place. And just like, different variety of different things. But yeah, 8 of those times people have given me their information, their contact information, and basically became an engaged lead. So it does work. It's just a numbers game. And I've been pushing myself to do as much as possible. Currently, I'm trying to do 100 every single day, and I'm doing that 5 days a week. Saturday and Sunday I've been using to hold open houses, and I've also, currently actually this specific week I've stopped doing it. I'm planning on cutting down on open houses, and I'm going to go into why a little bit later. But yeah, Saturday, Sunday right now I'm leaving it for other work, working on the business, because I've also been doing CRM and other stuff, like implementing a CRM into my system and other stuff like that. But yeah, 500 is per week, and that's essentially, if you do that 4 weeks, of course, it's 2,000 every month, which is the ideal number. And that would mean I would do about, in 4 months, hit 8,000, and then I could cycle those same 8,000 every three times a year. And also what I started doing in door knocking, because early on, what I realized running through the initial farm of 600 twice, what I realized is that I don't actually remember who I talked to or what they said or what actually happened, and it just kind of seemed odd when somebody opened the door and they said, hey, I've seen you before, what's up, or whatever. I have no idea, I blank, because I've seen so many people it's hard to remember. So what I started doing is I started pulling my phone outside of every time somebody opened the door, and also after every time I knocked on a door, but after every time somebody spoke to me, I just put in a quick note about what they said or who they were. If they told me their name, then I put in their name over there. So I could just quickly reference back. I could just see the neighborhood, like, okay, 758 said this, boom, 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 boom. And I can just run through the list. Since I already pull out my phone every time, I'll see it. The next time I run through, I'll see, okay, 758, I'm about to knock on that door. That person is Stacy, XYZ, is looking to sell in a year, blah, blah, blah. And I have like a point of reference to talk about. And I've been doing that now, and it's been a lot easier to track exactly who's opened the door, what they said, how many people are not interested, just basically everything. If you track the data, you're able to improve the data, and I really saw that firsthand after I started tracking the door knocking metrics. So basically, I just went over my plan. So 500 doors a week over the course of a year, you'll easily hit basically around 24,000 homes. That's the ideal. And you just want to cycle the same 8,003 times. So 24,000 doors is really just 8,003 times. And this is the ideal because I want to see these people at least 3 times in a year. And if ideally I get to hold an open house in the same, in that farm where I'm hitting those 8,000 doors, that would be ideal. And what Mark Taylor also told me is that 8,000 doors, keep it in areas that if a buyer were to be looking, they would go to each of those areas. Like they're all basically connected areas. They're all very similar in nature. And basically what I chose just West Hollywood, Beverly Grove, and also Beverly Grove, and then the Fairfax area, which is right next to that. So this is all like areas that if somebody is looking in that area, they're probably just going to go to all of those areas. And then I'm also just going to expand it a little bit. And most of the time when people are looking, they're expanding their search a little bit in that area. And I'll also probably go like just south of Beverly Hills. That's also an area it's a little bit higher in price range, but it's also pretty similar if a buyer's going to look. They would look at probably all of those areas. So that's probably going to be my 8,000 door. Currently, like I said, I'm on 1,900, and 500 of those again were from the second run through. So it's really like I've hit 1,400 single farm area doors, and I need to basically just do 6,000 more. So I need to find 6,000 common areas that buyers would go to. Also, for this specifically door knocking, I really just don't want to lose focus because I know this is the highest leverage thing I can be doing with my time. This and also posting content and just like all of these things together that get me closer to a sale. These are the highest leverage things I can be doing with my time, and this is what I really want to focus on. Skylight essentially, when I got into it, it served as a distraction. It took my attention away because I was door knocking at the time. I wasn't doing nearly the volume, but I was door knocking, and it kind of just took my attention. And it definitely, took up at least a month and a half of time that could have been used for door knocking. So moving forward, I really want to just focus and hone in on just door knocking. And another side note regarding Skylight. So for the leases that you close, you actually have to wait 60 days before you actually get the commission, and it's 60 days from the start date of the lease. So when somebody signs a lease, they normally sign a few weeks in advance. Most of the time, it's about a month in advance. They sign the lease, and it's a month in advance. So it's from that point, 60 days, and then you get paid for the Skylight leases. Skylight is the company that was providing the partnership and the leads. And that's really, if you know how that works, it's kind of really tough to actually get anything done. So I still haven't even received the commissions for the leases that I closed basically 2 months ago. And if you want to get the commission faster, immediately as you close, you have to pay a $100 fee per lease. And the lease commissions are already really small. You don't get much. So paying $100 on top of that is just, you really don't get anything if you do that. So now I want to go over CRM. So I just want to go over what is a CRM, how I've been implementing it into my business, and basically everything that I've learned from using a CRM. So essentially, a CRM is like a customer relationship management tool. This basically, essentially, it helps you manage, because once you start getting into the business, they have a lot of contacts, and a lot of the times you forget. Basically, it's a database that helps you manage that. So initially, for me, it was just a Google Sheet, and I was just using multiple different types of Google Sheets. I started innovating with the Google Sheets, making just different ways that I could follow up better, not forget about people, and eventually you get to a point where it doesn't really work that well, and you totally forget about certain people, and just things fall through the cracks. And just recently, within the last week, I didn't even realize this before, I started using Compass CRM. So Compass is really known for its tech platforms. That's what its main strong suit is. And I didn't really realize that because up to this point, I'd just been really focused on how can I get more leads, how can I get money in, and just all of the other side of the business, just trying to get leads, trying to get leads, trying to get leads. And I didn't really realize that the main thing in real estate is actually how well you can nurture your leads and how well you can follow up with them. Not really, because most people aren't looking to buy and sell immediately. It's more like a down the line process that is more long term. And that, initially what I started doing is, when I was doing the Google Sheets, it just wasn't working well, and a lot of people were falling through the cracks, and that probably caused me to lose a lot of business. So, I probably lost at least a couple transactions just from totally forgetting about people and not managing, my database correctly, especially all the open house people I've gotten, the door knocking people, just so many things that I just didn't manage correctly. So now, I've taken all of my leads from my Google Sheet and then transferred it onto the Compass CRM. And from this, I'm just going to follow up with every single person that I feel like I have a good connection with every 90 days. And also what I'm going to do is just send out mass emails every 3 weeks. So currently, I've never sent a mass email. So, I had plans to do it, and then I had one made, and then I never ended up sending it. And then, it's just like, it's been basically 5 months, and I've had like a collection, like a database of emails, and I've never sent a mass email simply because, I don't know, I just didn't feel like it was necessary. I was like, leads. And, I just totally forgot about the mass email thing. And that's honestly, it's very important to just make sure your database is actually kept up to date, that you exist and you're still in real estate. Otherwise, it's very simple for them just to schedule a tour for some other random home, never see you again, never think about you again, and that's it. So, that's why I'm really, really getting hard down onto the back end things and just trying to fix all of the holes in the bucket. So how do I think the CRM will help me? So I think realistically, from the CRM, it'll just fill up all the holes in the bucket, and it'll help me follow up with every single person, and it'll help me keep track of what the heck I'm doing. So there's many times, especially in leases, where somebody's like put in an application, or they were thinking about putting in an application, and I totally forgot about them, and then a month goes by and I remember that, and then like by that point it's too late, the unit's already gone, or they're not even interested anymore. And it's just like, it's wasted time, wasted money. There's so many opportunities that I could have probably had that I just totally forgot about, simply because I just forgot and I didn't have good data management. And so my end goal with the CRM is essentially the best follow-up system, to where there's nobody left behind. There's nobody who wasn't followed up with properly, nobody who wasn't addressed properly. And I think, for me, a good goal, one of my primary objectives is to have great customer service. And, somebody with great customer service doesn't forget about clients. So, I just really want to get that back-end system solved. So finally, I want to talk about open houses. So I've been really, really grinding out open houses, trying to get open houses. I've spent a lot of time in open houses. And, that was because, especially in Graham Stephan's course, he talks about how great open houses are. And many of the big agents talk about how great it is to, put yourself in an open house, meet potential buyers. Just the whole thing is definitely, it's a great way to, just show your brand and just, meet new clients. It's a great way to get leads. So to begin with, how do you get open house? How did I get open houses? Well, my first ever open house I got from someone on my team. I held it with them, and that's how I got my first couple open houses. After that, so some of my team members, they don't always have open houses. So, and I wanted to hold at least one or two every single weekend. So initially, I started by sending out a mass email to everyone in Compass, and that got me only one. And then what I started doing after that to actually get consistent leads is I started individually reaching out to different agents at Compass, just individually from different offices, one-on-one through text, just like, hey, do you have any extra open houses? Hey, do you have any? And probably the volume is at least minimum of 150 to 200 to get an open house, which is what I did. I did about 150 to 200 to get a couple open houses, and then I started, getting connections with these people. These people had a few listings. They started letting me hold their open houses, and then, that kind of cycles, because once you get, with an agent, anytime they have an extra open house, they contact you like, hey, I have an extra open house, you want to sit it? And that's how I've probably held about, I have the exact number somewhere, but it's probably around 9 to 10 open houses. And all of those have just been from that same method, just contacting different agents. And eventually I started going to people outside my brokerage and then just emailing them directly, or texting them and just saying, hey, can I hold your open houses? And it's really just a numbers game like everything else. But really, what I noticed is that the amount of time that I had to input into an open house, because it's not just the 3 to 4 hours or sometimes 5 hours that you actually hold at the open house. It's also, all the prep work that goes into it, getting the signs ready, getting just all the flyers printed out, just everything. So just to begin with, you have to also door knock before the open house. So a day before, you have to print out like basically 100 flyers, door knock around the area. And then on the day of, you actually have to I have to bring the signs from my office to the open house, print out all the correct flyers, set up the open house, switch on all the lights, just the whole, everything, get refreshments, all of it. And then during the open house, I have to obviously hold it and be attentive and focus. And since I don't have a laptop, there's not really any work I can do during the open house. So I'm essentially, if nobody comes in, I just wasted all of that effort because I can't get any work done during the open house because I have no laptop. And even if I had a laptop, you have to also factor in all of the other time that you spent doing all of the other things instead of working. So just from what I've seen, the only real open houses that are actually worth your time are the ones that are fairly new on the market, so within like 2 to 3 weeks on the market. They're not leases, because leases basically get nobody that comes in. They're sale properties, and they're in good locations, because I held an open house that was close to like 5 million, but it was out basically in the middle of nowhere. It was like in Tarzana. It's not the middle of nowhere, but it's just like, it's like 3 miles away from, any major city area that's actually, heavily trafficked. And that just causes a lot of problems because basically nobody comes in except neighbors. And there's nothing inherently wrong with neighbors. It's just like, when you only get 3 neighbors that come in during a whole 6-hour open house or 5-hour open house, it's not really worth the amount of time they have to set up. You have to get everything ready. It's honestly not worth it. And in the same time, if I just door knock for other places, at least I can speak to more people, get potentially more leads that are actually more engaged with who I am and and how I can help them. And it's just a better overall use of time because you also have to factor in driving time and everything else. So really, in regards to open house, I think my honest thoughts are that I'm just going to cut off basically all open houses unless I find an open house that's actually worth going to where it's close enough to this like a heavily trafficked area to where it can actually get people that come in. It's at a price point that actually makes sense because anything under like 1 million from what I've seen, the people that come in are just like, they're just kind of just like looking around. They're just like neighbors. There's people walking by. And it's just like, there's not that many people that come into an under $1 million open house because it's just like, I don't know, it's just not that many. There's so many better open houses around. So it's above like $1 million for open houses. And it also has to be, a young listing. And it has to not be a teardown because teardowns don't really get many people either. So those are like the parameters, and it's really, really hard to find those parameters of open houses because the agents that list them hold those really tight because they know that's where all the leads come in, so they want to hold it themselves. So it's really, really rare to find a really good open house that you can sit that's actually like a quality open house. So basically, I'm just going to divert most of my attention away from open houses and into more door knocking. And also potentially starting to maybe just cold call expireds just on the daily, just for like 30 minutes to an hour, just to get the reps in and just to get better at conversation as a whole. So for cold calling expireds, the reason I wanted to start doing that, and it's not to divert my focus because it's kind of supplemental to the door knocking. It's something I can do where it's not going to eat up my time because it's just something I can get reps in and it's the same skill, just conversations, get better at conversations, and just get better at like learning the real estate market as a whole. There's a lot that I've learned and a lot that, I've taken into account that I didn't know before. So yeah, I just really want to get into cold calling, especially because my team lead brought it up to me as it's a really good way to meet people that actually truly are looking to sell. In door knocking, the thing is, you're knocking on cold leads, and most of the time for most people, they're obviously not looking to buy or sell at that exact moment because they already have a home, and the average time is around once in 7 years or so that people start buying and selling. So of course, it's more of a long-term thing. The thing is with expireds is that I can get the same, it's something I can do supplementally because there's not that many expireds that come up every day. Realistically, in the areas that I'm looking at, it's not more than 10 or 15 a day, and I could easily pop that off in about 30 minutes. So 30 minutes a day is kind of worth it for the reps that I get in and just like better conversational skills because what I learned is just from having more conversations, you get so much better at speaking with people and just getting a better idea of how to get the correct information and convey what you want to convey to other people. And also, really quickly, I just want to go over some of the other things that I've realized in the last 3.5 months. One of them being just how little I actually knew about, 1, the market, 2, the area, and 3, just like basically just the neighborhood as a whole. So what I mean by that is, so just in terms of prices, I really didn't know the price ranges of certain areas. Like, okay, West Hollywood sells for this, Beverly Groves does this, boom, boom, boom. Like I had no clue. I didn't have a point of reference as to where most homes were selling at. And currently I'm planning on putting more of a focus on just learning the just prices, just the general average prices in areas, so I can just better conversate with people in those areas. Because I've been door knocking and people ask me, hey, what do you think this would go for? And I have not even an average I can tell them, not even a range, because I just have no clue, what these houses are even going for. And that's not something I really want to, I just don't want that to be happening. I want to be more knowledgeable in that sense. And it's also just the area, like people have asked me all the time, like, hey, how do you think about this area as a real estate agent? And, I just have no idea because I haven't done any research into the area. What are the nearby restaurants, cool things to do? Nothing. I haven't done any of the research. So I want to also implement that. And then the neighborhood as a whole, it's just like, I want to better understand, just like what are the characteristics of each neighborhood? What is like the positives and negatives? For example, the one open house that I held for like around $5 million in Tarzana, that place the benefits are that it's really quiet. It's a little bit more remote. It's out of the city. It's more of a family area. But if I was in West Hollywood, there's just totally different characteristics of the neighborhood. It's right next to the city. You're walkable from any grocery stores, just all the nightlife and malls and stuff like that. It's a lot closer, and everything is right in and around. So it's just a different neighborhood characteristics, and I want to learn that in a better way for each of the neighborhoods just around that I'm going to be working in, because I think that's really important, especially when clients ask me. So I think overall that was my video. I know this is like a totally different style than what my other videos were, and I think this is going to be more of the style moving forward. It's going to be me talking to a camera with basically no edits. So yeah, let me know. And also don't forget to watch this next video right here.